So today we launch our 6-week series on Unity's 12 spiritual powers. It's one of our foundational teachings, 12 powers. You'll see it here up on our wall as well, this beautiful artwork by Grace Hollow, so you can follow along on the wall as well. It's based on our Unity co-founder Charles Fillmore's work in his book, The 12 Powers of Man, first published in 1930. Although there was some other early writings about 12 innate powers, 12 inner powers that go back to the New Thought pioneers Emma Curtis Hopkins, the teacher of teachers, as well as Annie Ricks Millets in the late 19th century. And of course, he studied with them. And he started doing a lot of writing and wrote articles about these inner powers that we have. Most of them can be captured in his 1909 book, Christian Healing. Many of you have probably read that. And then he and his second wife, Cora Fillmore, together put her works from 1937 together, and then we have the book, The 12 Powers. So the latest edition we have is originally from that 1937 version with her additional writings on what she felt were our innate powers. And of course, then there's been modern takes on this work. So if you want to read about it, learn about it in a very modern language, which of course is usually easier for all of us in 2023, we have lots of different works, including Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett, who, remember, we did a whole series on her newest book, This Life is Yours. Well, she's got Divine Audacity. We've got lots of other books on a bookshelf, actually, back here. And at unity.org, you can find more as well. And our metaphysics textbook also covers the 12 powers, of course, because it's one of our teachings. So 12 spiritual powers. So I, like many others, like to call them our 12 spiritual abilities. Do you remember when kids, they have those character counts, right? We used to have those too at their school, character count awards. This is like our 12 powers. This is our own adult version of characters count. And for us, it's our 12 spiritual powers or abilities. They are, because we are infinite spiritual beings, we just have these inner powers or abilities that represent our divine identity. That's really what they are. It's not something we need to strive to get. They just always exist within us. These spiritual ideas or attributes are available whether we're using them intentionally or not. But they're working all the time. So we can overuse them, we can underuse them, we can wisely use them, we can not so wisely use them, but the choice is ours, right? Sometimes we have faith, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have a lot of willpower, sometimes we don't. Sometimes we have too much willpower, sometimes we don't. But once we recognize and develop our these innate spiritual powers or abilities, then we can really activate them and really work with them for good. They become one more spiritual tool in our toolbox so that we can use them in life in everyday situations. Each power is represented by a disciple because in Unity, we believe that the Bible really represents our own story, our own evolution, our own consciousness. So we go from being asleep to awake, from awake to conscious, right? And so as the Bible tells our own personal story of evolution, conscious evolution, each disciple has their own story within that. And we can really look at how does that disciple, how is it represented by that spiritual power? So some are really obvious because we've got John represents love, Judas represents life. Those are pretty, that seems obvious, right? Also, each power or ability, because we are energetic beings, and so when you think of, just for a minute, when you think of love, we can usually feel that feeling or vibration of love, right? And usually we kind of go into our heart space. And so it's true for all of these spiritual powers or attributes, that they all have an invisible vibratory energy about them that can be sensed. And Charles Fillmore felt sensed and felt in different parts of our body. So each power is also associated with a different part of our body, much like the chakras. So many of you have probably heard of chakras or studied chakras, seen chakras. It's the same idea, that within us we have these spiritual abilities that make up our spiritual identity, and they resonate in different parts of the body. Each power is also represented by a color. Our music ministry did a fantastic job today because the two colors, faith is represented, as you see here, royal blue, and strength by this green, this spring green. The colors were not Charles Fillmore, though. The colors came later. It was actually in a meditation by Reverend Joel Bear, who was the minister at Unity of Mesa for decades, actually. He was in meditation in the 60s, and he had these colors that came about, and they got incorporated into the teachings. So it's also been so helpful, I think, to many of us who have studied 12 powers before, because as you meditate on or pray with or affirm a spiritual ability or power, you can relate it to a color. I think for many of us, we can almost relate more to a color, can't we, than, say, a disciple. I know for myself. So, in summary, for an overview on spiritual powers, because our nature is one with divine nature, or God, right? Because our nature is one with divine nature, we can use our thoughts, words, and actions to be in integrity with our divine identity, which is made up of these 12 spiritual abilities. And again, when we recognize them and develop them, then we can ignite them, we can have them empower us to express our spiritual selves in everyday situations. So each week we're going to look at two spiritual powers, two of the 12 spiritual powers today, faith and strength. So, faith. So I thought, how many times, because we think of faith and religion quite often together, so how many times does faith appear in the Bible? And it turns out 378 times. That's a lot of times. Now, traditionally, it's thought, of course, faith is thought of as having a belief in God or a religious doctrine or a complete trust in someone outside of us who's making things happen. But in Unity, we teach on our first slide here that faith is our ability to know, believe, and intuit the invisible before it manifests in the physical. It's our ability to believe even when we can't see the results. I may not see it in the physical realm yet, but I'm going to believe it. It's our deep inner knowing. It's that we know, that we know, that we know. And I really see faith as surrendering. When you have faith, there's really a surrendering, isn't there? I told you all about our son, our almost 19, not even 19-year-old son driving to the Grand Canyon. And in that faith of knowing that he'll be okay, having to surrender the fear. Yeah, the faith is about surrendering, to learn to trust that the very fabric of the universe has your best interest at heart. It's located in the middle of the brain, which makes sense, right? Because it's when we have monkey mind that we lose our faith. So it's important that when we want to have more faith, we go back to, let me go back to my mind, right there in the center of my brain, and get calm again. Again, represented by the color blue, royal blue. The disciple is Peter. Now, you all know I'm not a big Bible person, but when it gets juicy good, I bring it to you. Because Peter is a good one, everybody. He is good, because guess what? His name before he met Jesus, you all know this, was Simon. Now, Simon in Greek means God has heard, or being receptive to hearing God. But his name got changed to Peter by Jesus because Jesus felt that Simon had become receptive to God in his own faith and believing that Jesus was the Messiah or the anointed one. And so because he had strong, unwavering faith, which is necessary for activating faith, he changed his name. faith and strength go so hand in hand together. This is why these two powers, we really always need to almost teach them at the same time, because you have to have faith and strength and faith, right? So the Greek meaning for the name Peter is strong, firm, unyielding rock. Because again, it was Peter who said that Jesus was the anointed one. And so Jesus referred to him as Peter and said that because of Peter, this is the rock that Jesus would build his ministry, his church. So what Jesus is saying is, you're not going to build your faith on a marsh or on quicksand. You're going to build your faith on solid ground. So you need the strength there to build your faith. And yet, Peter represents, this is why I love Peter, because he's so human. He represents faith in all of its various developments. Because sometimes Peter has a lot, and sometimes not so much. And here's the other fun thing. So when he started to lose faith, that's when Jesus would go back to calling him Simon. Okay, Simon. Have you ever done that to your spouse or okay, grumpy, right? Okay, Simon. Because when Peter started to act like his old self, Simon, that's when he was acting like he wasn't that rock, he didn't have that rock of faith. So, of course, there's the story of Jesus walking on water. So Jesus has just spoken to a crowd of people. He says, I'm going to go up to the mountain and pray a while. Very important, right? We need our time away. We work, and then we have our time apart. But he sends his disciples on before him. They get in a boat. They're on the Sea of Galilee. A big storm comes up, and they're freaking out because the waves are big, and the road is rocking, and they're scared. And then Jesus walks onto the water, and they see this figure walking on the water, and now they really freak out. And it's Peter that says, if you're really Jesus, let me walk to you. And so Peter, in full faith, takes a couple steps out of the boat, and now he's in faith, and he's on the water. And then he looks down and he sees the swirling waters all around him. And he gets scared. And he loses faith and he starts to drown. And Jesus reaches out his hands and says, why do you have no faith? And sometimes, maybe it's just me, we're walking in life and we feel like we have a lot of faith, and then suddenly life has swirling waves all around us, and we start to lose our faith. Or we're going through a situation and the waves come up, which is the fear, right? Health issues, relationship conflicts, work insecurity. All of these waves of life come swirling around us, and we start to lose our faith. So we forget to be receptive to listen to that inner voice and trust and have faith. So like Peter, sometimes we can lose our faith and forget to listen to that inner voice of presence. We forget that we are the anointed ones. We forget that we are divine expressions. We forget to reach out a hand in faith around the situation. In Unity's Metaphysics textbook by Reverend Paul Hasselbeck, he says, when we're in our very human sense consciousness, our five senses, when we're really in our physical humanness, then faith is that lack of faith. It's, I believe I'm not worthy. And that's really what we see Peter do, right? Because we say, he sees Jesus, but then suddenly it's like, I'm not worthy like Jesus. I'm not able to do what Jesus can do. And he loses faith. He gets caught up in his five senses. Or we can come to faith from a spiritual consciousness, which is more than believing. It's realizing I am Christ. I am the divine. I am the anointed one. My spiritual nature is my true identity. I am the rock on which my faith has its being. I do believe in confidence. So we can put our faith in outside things, people, work, healthcare, and sometimes we need to. And we can get quiet and immerse ourselves in love because, and I took this part out, but Peter was all about, let me center in love to get to my faith. So when we get quiet and immerse ourselves with love and move forward with confidence and strength like a rock in our faith, then our faith in the outside world comes from a place of inner faith, right? We create from within to out. So our faith starts within, from our spiritual consciousness, and then we can, what am I now having faith in the outside world? But it starts from within. So how do we apply the spiritual attribute or ability or power of faith in our lives? We can start by asking at the beginning or the end of the day, where am I putting my faith today? Or where do I want to put my faith today? Do I want to put it in fear or do I want to put it in peace? Maybe there's a situation in your life, an area in your life that you want to brainstorm around. What beliefs do I have around this situation? What faith or beliefs do I want to develop around this situation? Because I can think, well, I can't dance. There's no way I can dance. Or I can, because that's having faith or belief in that. Or I can turn it into, I have faith that at any age I can learn a new skill. But it's up to me to decide, where do I want to place my faith? And then, of course, affirmations. So as you either wake up, go to bed, maybe both, throughout your day, when you're sensing, I don't have a lot of faith right now, affirmations to remind you of your truth. So here's one affirmation we can do together. I let faith, not fear, guide me. Together? I let faith, not fear, guide me. Right. And when we say faith, we're meaning our intuitive inner knowing. I let my intuitive inner knowing, not fear, guide me. I let my intuitive inner knowing, not fear, guide me. Let's whisper, I let faith, not fear, guide me. Ready? I let faith, not fear, guide me. Yes. And so you can see where faith gives us the courage to persevere without knowing the ultimate outcome. That's where our spiritual power of strength comes in. Because strength is our spiritual ability to persevere. So here's how we define the spiritual power of strength on our next slide. To persevere, to be balanced, stable, rooted, sturdy. It's that inner power of strength that allows us to continue to apply our faith to persevere against the appearances. Do you see how faith and strength go hand in hand? So the disciple with this spiritual power is Andrew. The name Andrew in Greek means strong or strong man. The color is spring green, and it's located in the small of the back. So can you imagine also, I know for my own stuff, when we think of like, oh, I don't have a lot of strength today, where are we? Usually we're thinking of our back holding us up strong, aren't we? So it's easy to remember that space. And we can be strong in body, in mind, and in spirit, but all strength originates in spirit, again, from within out. The body keeps the score. So from within out. Strength underdeveloped. The power of strength underdeveloped looks like our inability to stick with a goal or a project. Right? We're overwhelmed. we're not going with it. Or our whole, maybe we're anxious. So then we don't stick to a goal or project. That's underdeveloped strength. Overdeveloped, which is also unbalanced, shows up as being compulsive or stubborn. It's that power struggle. But from a spiritual, Christ divine consciousness, we use our spiritual strength to continue to be persistent in being the best divine expression we can be. How can I continue to show up as my most divine expression of self? So when it comes to our faith, we can see how the story of Peter, even when he's wavering, that's when he needs to employ strength in character, strength in belief. It's that inner power of strength that allows us to continue to apply our faith, again, to persevere against appearances. So in life, sometimes we experience the waves. The waves of life come up, life's challenges. But we overcome them with that spiritual power of strength. The toughest moments in our lives, divorce, death, health crisis, loss of a job, it was our ability to stay the course that got us through. Can you look back and see that? It was your inner resource, your inner spiritual ability of strength to get you through. So instead of getting caught up in the story, this is the end of me, we can affirm. This is when we add an affirmation, like on this slide. I claim my power of strength. I stay the course based on my faith in divine ideas and knowing that outer appearances do not dictate my truth. So take a breath into that, and let's say it together. I claim my power of strength. I stay the course based on my faith in divine ideas and knowing that outer appearances do not dictate my truth. Yeah, from the Rise into Your Power cards, these are great little cards. Each one of you will get one as you leave today, but it has affirmations in here of each 12 spiritual powers. So on the strength one, it says, strength is the determination that holds me steady and bolsters my courage. So that's Peter on the water when he first walks out, right? In real life, when we're rushing around, we're not balanced, we're not calm, we're not stable, we're not rooted, we're not sturdy, we're rushing all around, doing everything. Sometimes what happens is then we smash our toe and break it. It says in the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary that when strength finds faith, they're held together consciously in mind, and then a bond of unity is established that carries one along, even though one may encounter the most adverse experiences. So when we're in life's most adverse experiences, that's when faith and strength support each other. So I was due to have kidney surgery in early 2013. My kidney had another idea. It was supposed to be the end of May 2013 was my surgery scheduled at USC. It was the beginning of May, and I was in tremendous pain. I was at Los Robles Hospital, and I just had to hold on to my faith in the medical team. Man, my doctor, I was in so much pain, I was like, just cut me open and get this done with. And she did not want to, because she knew what was best for me was to get transferred back to USC, where I could have the robotic surgery. So I had to hold on to my faith in my medical team and in the right decisions, the transfer to USC. I also, and I've said this to our prayer team, this is why they're so powerful, I had faith in our prayer team and Silent Unity's prayer ministry, knowing that others were holding me in the strength of their faith when I was in too much pain to do so for myself. I couldn't consciously do it for myself. I was in too much pain. But I knew that I could actually hold on to that glimmer of faith and strength because I knew others were holding it for me. But it was my physical, mental, and spiritual strength that got me through the experience because my faith was rooted in physical, mental, and spiritual realms. And so when one of these spiritual powers, faith or strength, start to falter or feel unsturdy, that's when that other attribute is there to support it. So faith is supported by strength. Strength is most definitely supports faith, and they're bonded together, carrying us along. So how can we apply more spiritual strength? This is where our meditation practice comes in. I mean, it's nice to be relaxed and quiet. But really, our meditation practice teaches us that I can go back to my breath, even when the storms come up, even when I start to feel the fear of life. Our meditation practices reminds us that sometimes I'm going to have some chatter, and I'm just going to say chatter and come back to my breath. It's our meditation practice that teaches us to be centered, calm, rooted, anchored, secure, safe, sturdy, yet flexible, stable. So again, meditation is great for the easy peasy times, but also we come back to it as an anchor when the storms come up. And then identifying a situation. What's a situation in your life where you can use more strength? And then brainstorm some ideas. What actions could I take that would demonstrate more stability or more courage or more tenacity? Thinking of a situation. How can I ignite more stability, courage, or tenacity into that situation in my life? And then again, our affirmations. So let's affirm this one together. Divine strength is my spiritual nature. I am strong, steadfast, and centered in body, mind, and spirit. Let's say that together. Divine strength is my spiritual nature. I am strong, steadfast, and centered in body, mind, and spirit. And now with a whisper. Divine strength is my spiritual nature. I am strong, steadfast, and centered in body, mind, and spirit. Yes, bringing that into yourself. So over the next 6 weeks, we're going to apply our spiritual powers. I would encourage you can either choose the 2 that we're working on Sundays all week long, or you can choose any 2 that you feel like you need as you go through your day or your week. But I encourage you to meditate on them. I encourage you to brainstorm. How can I bring this into this meeting or this conversation or this email? How can I embody these 2 spiritual powers this week or this day? And then affirming. With each spiritual power that we go through, we can affirm this. For this week, it'll be this on this next slide. The divine I am has the ability to have faith. Let's say that first one. The divine I am has the ability to have faith. The divine I am has the ability to endure, persevere, and stay the course. Together? The divine I am has the ability to endure, persevere, and stay the course. And then the divine I am has the ability to persistently believe in my absolute good. And we're going to say that one enthusiastically. Ready? The divine I am has the ability to persistently believe in my absolute good. Yes. So to support you in your studies, again, when you leave today, make sure you handpick a card from our deck. Also, we have the whole 12 powers in a document for you to give out to you today. We have a whole bookshelf that we have of 12 powers materials, so you can do a deeper dive on your own at home if you'd like. And we are here available to answer any questions as well. So, starting this week, before we leave, taking a moment right now to think, how am I going to ignite more faith, more spiritual strength within myself and within my life, starting now? Yes, I'm clapping for all of you. Do you all have it? I'm not getting off the stage until you say, I've got it. Yeah. How am I going to ignite more faith and spiritual strength with myself and in my life? Not tomorrow, but right now. So affirm with me, I believe in and claim my divine identity. I believe in and claim my divine identity. Let's say it again with belief. I believe in and claim my divine identity. And it is so. Thank you, everyone.